Hi, this is C.B. Whittemore reporting for the Smoke Rise and Kinnelon blog. Ramstein Beer of Butler, New Jersey recently held its first open house of 2010. In the following video, Greg Zaccardi, the owner, gives a tour of the brewery and an explanation of the brewing process. I hope you enjoy it.
We ferment our beers, and fermentation requires our fourth ingredient. We're going to let them do it this time. I know you know. Okay, anybody know what the fourth ingredient is? If they don't know, you can tell them. Yeah, there we go, yeast, right? She's been here. This is actually the most faithful tour attendee I've had. So, front row seat all the time. All right, it's Ted's wonderful daughter. So. Okay, we have two different types of yeast that we use here. We have an ale yeast for our wheat beers. And the ale yeast ferments at a warmer temperature, contributes a lot more complex fruitiness, kind of clove character to our wheat beers. As I mentioned earlier, we only use 4 ingredients. So if you're tasting like banana and clove and all that complexity in our ales and our wheat beers, it's specifically from the yeast's fermentation. So that ale yeast ferments about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, takes about 3 days to ferment all that sweet, wonderful liquid into beer. It produces 3 things during fermentation. You can see we've got CO2 coming off, produces alcohol, and of course that character of flavor. Lager yeast is the second type of yeast we use, and our lagers, like our Maibach, our Oktoberfest, our Golden, our Amber, are fermented at a much cooler temperature, about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. They take a little longer to ferment, and those beers are much more straightforward towards the malt profile and a little bit towards the hop character. So they don't have that fruity complexity. They're more smooth, balanced, round beers. The most popular beers in the world are all lager beers. So, if you've had a beer, 50% of all beers in the United States are from Anheuser-Busch, and the balance are from the big guys up to about 10%, and that's the craft brewers. So chances are you've been drinking a lot of lager beer in your lifetime. Once the beer is done with its primary fermentation, or just before, I should say, we seal off these valves here and instead of allowing the carbon dioxide to scrub out of the beer, we allow it to redissolve and naturally carbonate our beers. Our beers are naturally carbonated in the historic, traditional manner. We don't artificially jack up our beers like some of the big producers do. That's why our beers have a much smaller, smoother, finer bubble pattern. You don't have that harshness. So have you ever had chugged a can of some mass-produced product and you got that seltzer burn in your lungs because of the artificial carbonation? So the beer then goes through secondary or cold aging. Our lagers tend to age for about 3 to 4 weeks at near freezing, and our ales tend to age for about 2 weeks at near freezing. You guys know, I always ask this question, you guys know what temperature beer freezes at? She does. 28 degrees Fahrenheit, absolutely. You better be careful if you go on that show. What about 5th graders or something? So we obviously never let our beer get down to that temperature, except when we're making our Eisbach, which is a very unique beer that's around for a very small period of time. One thing I want to mention is I talked about all the different beers we brew. All 11 beers aren't available every day. They're seasonal products for the most part. We have 4 year-round beers. Make sure you sign up on our email list. You'll know when the new beers are coming out. You would know about when the Maibach's coming out. When, we have an Imperial Pilsner on the horizon that we're brewing. So that'll be, you'll know about that by the emails. But anyway, back to secondary cold aging. Once that is completed, we'll then transfer our beer. If it's the ales, they're unfiltered, and they go right into kegs or bottles. And if it's our lagers, I'm going to ask you guys to rotate 180 degrees. I don't know if you can see it, but behind Brian, John, and Jeff is our diatomaceous filter. Rusty's back there.